Good morning. Welcome back to the library garden. You might notice we're in a different library garden today. This is the rose garden on the east side of the building, and we decided to come out here today and talk to you about what to do with your roses in fall. You might not know this, but it's just about the 55th anniversary of the Longview Library Rose Garden. It was started in 1965 by Avis Fowler of the Fowler family that owned Fowler Slough, which later became Lake Sacagawea. And all these years later, it's still thriving. It's still one of the most iconic parts of visiting the library. Magnificent. A big part of this time in the rose garden season is restraint, because it's really easy to want to get in there and do a lot. You don't want to do too much. But there are a few things you should take care of before winter sets in. One of the biggest things you can do this time of year is deal with the leaves. Now, it's a good practice all year long, my grandma taught me this, to be picking off leaves with problems and throwing them away so you save yourself time later. But at this point in the season, as the rose is losing its leaves, you should be sure to rake up all those leaves that have black spot, powdery mildew, rust, any of those problems. Don't let them sit around the feet of the rose, because that's just going to perpetuate the cycle. They're going to get back up onto the bush. With a little vigilance, you can keep your roses much more resilient and disease-free. Exquisite. Tempting as it is, you don't want to do too much pruning this time of year. You don't want to encourage too much of this new growth that'll be vulnerable to the frosts. That said, there are situations in which you might do some pruning. If a rose is really tall and it's in a very exposed area where there's going to be a lot of wind, roses lose their leaves from the bottom up, and that leaves you with a situation, especially if it's very dense, where it's like a sail, and that can really rock the rose and hurt its roots. So you might bring something like this down, even just to shoulder level. You might act like you're just picking it for a bouquet and come down. Try to cut it to a leaf juncture that faces out so that when it grows, you're encouraging an open, airy shape, and take it out. Enchanting. Devastating. Now I want to talk about deadheading. And now, full disclosure, I'm still learning a lot about roses. There's a lot to know. My grandma's taught me a lot of what I know about roses. And deadheading, from what I understand, this time in the season, people have different ideas. Some people continue deadheading right up until the roses are fully dormant, because there's some worry about those soggy blossoms, and harboring disease. But some people think it's really important to let the roses make hips so that they will go dormant sooner and not try to keep producing and be more vulnerable. So you can either come in and snap these off, or you can just simply take all the petals off and just leave that little stub to form into a hip. We hope you've enjoyed this foray into the rose garden, and we hope you're enjoying these crisp fall days. But before we go, we're going to take a look at that popcorn we harvested a while back. So let's head inside and get popping. So our popcorn has dried out to the point that it comes off the cob easily when you just run your hand across there. It's been tested by our staff. It pops well. So it's important now, when you get it to that point, to put it away in an airtight container so it stays at that moisture level. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw some little sample 10 to 20 kernels in a bag, fold it over and put it in the microwave. I don't know where Jeremy is. He's usually all about the popcorn. It's done. Magnificent. It smells great, and it's going to taste even better. I can't wait to try it. There you go, Jeremy. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. I'm Austin Brigden. This is Jeremy. We've got to grow, but we'll seed you later in the Longview Library Garden.